Sometimes a change of scenery can reignite a career.
Tom Brady, Super Bowl champion for the 7th time.
Other times, it's an absolute train wreck. Well, today, we take a look at some of the most notable late career moves and highlight the most legendary hits, and of course, the most epic flops that went up in flames. Success? Tom Brady to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's start things off with the guy that threw a wrench into the entire concept for NFL teams everywhere with the standard that he set for an over-the-hill pro starting up with a new team. After leaving the New England Patriots, Brady led the Bucs to a Super Bowl victory at age 42, proving his elite play could translate to a new system without Bill Belichick. The Buccaneers went from an underdog team to the league's most watched contenders, all because of one guy. And if you thought he was just there to cash a paycheck, his performance that year and really during that entire stretch was very impressive, and his competitive nature was as fierce as ever, defying age and rewriting the script on what's possible in the NFL. Or, at least for Tom Brady. But in any case, Brady's move to Tampa Bay wasn't just a success, it was an ultimate statement, putting a Hall of Fame stamp on his already Canton-bound career. Disaster? Warren Sapp to Oakland Raiders. Now, here's one that didn't exactly pan out. Warren Sapp, the larger-than-life defensive tackle who made his name with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, decided to wrap up his career with the Raiders. If Brady's switch was about proving something, Sapp's was just the opposite. He won a Super Bowl with Tampa, then shipped out to Oakland, where he appeared to be just cashing checks and really not taking things at all that seriously. Sure, he brought his reputation and his charisma, but when it came to actually delivering on the gridiron, the Raiders just weren't getting the same guy who terrorized offenses in Tampa. Which, honestly, was a huge disappointment for the Raiders, who expected Sapp to bring veteran leadership and a spark to the Raiders' defense. But all he ended up bringing was an inflated contract with very diminished returns. Sapp's stint in Oakland was a far cry from the terrifying monster that he was with the Bucs, and it didn't take long for fans to start questioning if his heart was really in it. Success? Peyton Manning to Denver Broncos. While he spent most of his career chasing Tom Brady in one way or another, Peyton Manning actually set the curve for what a second act should look like. After his time in Indianapolis came to a somewhat abrupt end, Manning rejuvenated his career in Denver, setting numerous records and winning a Super Bowl at age 39. Peyton Manning's transition from the Colts to the Broncos was one of the first big blockbusters in recent history that actually delivered, and it was particularly impressive because going into it, there were some red flags. I mean, this was a guy who had undergone neck surgery, missed an entire season, and still came back with a new team looking better than ever. I gotta emphasize this. Manning didn't just play, he dominated, setting passing records left and right. He landed in Denver and immediately turned that team into an offensive juggernaut, leading them to the playoffs year after year and finally sealing it all with a Super Bowl win. Disaster? Johnny Unitas to the San Diego Chargers. Talk about a legend who should have just quit while he was ahead. Johnny Unitas is one of the most storied quarterbacks in NFL history and became a legend as the face of the Baltimore Colts after originally being cut by the Pittsburgh Steelers way back in 1955. He earned the NFL's Most Valuable Player award 3 times and threw for a touchdown in a record 47 straight games. This is a guy who literally invented the 2-minute drill, and when San Diego brought him into the fold, they were expecting pretty dang big things. But in 1974, when Unitas traded in Colts blue for Chargers powder blue, let's just say that things did not go as planned. Unitas' age showed in San Diego, and it was painfully obvious. His once dominant arm had all but vanished, and instead of looking like a savvy veteran, he looked like a guy who was just trying to make it through the season. Needless to say, the Chargers' gamble on Unitas did not pay off. Instead, it backfired, and the great Unitas ended his career on the bench. Success? Randy Moss to New England Patriots. Many had written off Randy Moss as a malcontent that would never again amount to anything in the NFL after his stint in Oakland. But Bill Belichick and Tom Brady had other plans. They brought him into New England, where he played some of the best football of his career and created an offense that nearly powered the Patriots to their first undefeated season in league history since 1972. Randy Moss in New England was like watching a fireworks show in full display, and the memory of his dismal stint with the Oakland Raiders, during which many thought Moss was done, just sort of seemed to fade away. But Bill Belichick trusted that he could capitalize where no one else could, and gave Moss a chance to prove that he was still the most dangerous receiver in the game. And what happened after that? Well, pure pure magic. Moss paired with Tom Brady tore through defenses and shattered records. The 2007 season was something out of a movie. Moss not only revived his career, but helped lead the Patriots to a perfect regular season. He showed that all he needed was a quarterback who could maximize his potential. This wasn't just a second chance, it was redemption and dominance all rolled into one. Disaster, Emmitt Smith to the Arizona Cardinals. Emmitt Smith was Dallas. He was the heart and soul of the Cowboys, the NFL's all-time leading rusher, and a guy with 3 Super Bowl rings to his name. But in 2003, after breaking Walter Peyton's all-time rushing record in the 2002 season, Smith was released by the Dallas Cowboys after the season. Smith took his talents to Arizona, and, well, let's just say it was kind of an awkward goodbye. Smith's run with the Cardinals was marked by injuries, a lack of production, and a team that didn't have the supporting cast to let him shine. He managed a couple of decent games, but nothing that remotely looked like the Emmitt that we knew in Dallas. Wasn't the hero riding off into the sunset, this was more like the hero limping to the finish line. Emmitt's Arizona chapter is a reminder that not every star needs one last ride, especially when it's just not the right fit. He finished out his career after the 2004 season in the desert, where he never managed to eclipse the 1,000-yard mark, which he did in 11 of his 13 seasons with Dallas. Success? Kurt Warner to the Arizona Cardinals. Unlike Emmitt, Kurt Warner's move to Arizona was quite the success. Not quite to the fairy tale level of his initial ascent to the NFL, but hey, very impressive nonetheless. Then again, he did set a ridiculously high standard for those kind of theatrics with the whole grocery store clerk NFL Europe into NFL MVP leading the best offense that the league has ever seen in Super Bowl champion arc. I mean, honestly, when you just kind of lay it out like that, it doesn't even sound humanly possible. But that's exactly what Warner did to start his career. In any case, he was later written off by many in and around the NFL after a rough exit from his time with the New York Giants. Fortunately for the veteran quarterback, Warner found a soft landing spot out west with the Cardinals and completely turned his career around. In Arizona, he became the comeback king, leading a team that had been the league's punchline to a Super Bowl appearance. Warner's stint with the Cardinals wasn't just good, it was inspiring. He played an underdog role, clawing his way back to relevance and proving that his career wasn't over. His second act was an all-time lesson in resilience and showed that sometimes it takes a new environment to remind everyone what the player knows that they are capable of. Disaster? Shaun Alexander to the Washington Redskins. Shaun Alexander in Seattle was something else, a rushing champion, an MVP, and a guy who once seemed unstoppable. He could barrel over would-be tacklers like nobody else in the game at the time, and in many ways was the face of the game for a stretch there. I mean, he was even on the cover of Madden. I think it's hard to get more prestigious than that. But when he moved to Washington for a fat paycheck after 8 seasons in the Pacific Northwest, it was as if all of his powers had vanished. Alexander played just 4 games for Washington, and his production was almost non-existent. During that 2010 season, he played in those aforementioned 4 games and rushed for a pathetic 24 yards on 11 carries, leaving many to suspect that the Madden curse had struck yet again. Alexander's time in Washington was so forgettable, it's often left out of his career highlights altogether. It was a pretty sad ending for a once great player who clearly didn't have much left in the tank. If there's a lesson here, it's that sometimes the spark just doesn't reignite, no matter how much you want it to. But hey, if you can still get paid in the process, more power to you. Success? Matthew Stafford to the Los Angeles Rams. Though much of Matthew Stafford's career in Detroit was marked by wasted talent between him and Calvin Johnson, he was still able to put up some incredible numbers. But the wins just were few and far between. Then came the move to the Rams, and it was as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. In his first season, Stafford took the Rams all the way to a Super Bowl victory, proving that given the right team and the right moment, he could be a winner. While Matthew Stafford's tenure in Los Angeles has not been all rainbows and sunshine, winning a Super Bowl in his first season of his time there made it a successful endeavor even if the story is not yet complete. For Stafford, this wasn't just a new chapter, it was validation. All those years of struggling in Detroit, they'd finally paid off. Stafford's move to LA proved to everyone once and for all that he was one of the best in the business. Disaster? Earl Campbell to the New Orleans Saints. Earl Campbell was a wrecking ball in Houston, known for running over defenders like they weren't even there. During his 6.5 seasons in Houston, he was named an NFL Offensive Player of the Year in each of his first 3 seasons, winning the NFL Most Valuable Player award in 1979. But by the time he got to New Orleans, the hits had piled up and Campbell just was not the same player. His body had taken far too much of a beating, and his production was a shadow of what he used to be. Campbell's stint with the Saints was the sad story of a legend who stayed just a little too long. A classic example of the sitcom running for 3 seasons longer than it should have, or the final chapter that no one really needed. And a reminder that for powerbacks, the career clock ticks a little faster. But hey, which NFL star do you think had the most impressive second act to their career with another team? Who do you think had the most disappointing career after they moved? What do you think we got wrong? What do you think we got right? Was there anyone that we should have included on this list? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea, because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.